The crack behind the Camerana de Armas stood still, frozen in the middle of the brightly lit set. Cameras rolled, lights buzzed, voices whispered. The director's voice echoed, telling everyone to hold the shot, but Anna couldn't move. She was supposed to cry in this scene, supposed to fall apart as her character collapsed in grief. But what no one knew was that she wasn't acting. The tears that welled up in her eyes were real. Her chest ached not because of the role, but because of everything she had tried so hard to hide. She had come to work that day wearing a smile, making jokes, laughing during rehearsals. But inside, she had been quietly breaking. Keanu Reeves watched her from the side of the set. He had seen this look before, not in movies, not in scripts, but in life. He had once seen it in his own mirror, and that made something in him shift. No one dared to move. The silence on set grew heavy. The director leaned forward in his chair. Krumrumba fumbled with a boom mic. Anna blinked rapidly, as if trying to fight back the flood building behind her eyes. Keanu stepped forward. His footsteps were soft on the wooden floor. Didn't say anything at first. Didn't touch her. He simply came close, close enough that she could feel someone was there. She didn't look at him. Her lips trembled. Her breathing was shallow. And then, finally, he leaned in, just enough for her to hear him whisper for soft words. "I'm here with you." Anna didn't respond. Not with words, but her body changed. She let out a single, broken, breath half-sob, half-signed, something. Inside her eased, even if only a little. The director yelled, "Cut!" But no one moved. There was something sacred in that moment. Afterward, Anna didn't say much. She walked off set with her head down, trying not to make eye contact with anyone. But Keanu followed, slowly, quietly. He didn't chase her. He waited outside. The sun was beginning to set. Studio parking lot was almost empty. Anna stood next to her trailer, arms wrapped around herself. Keanu walked up beside her and didn't speak right away. Instead, he looked at the sky and then said in that calm, steady voice of his, "You were strong today. Not because of the scene, but because you didn't pretend." Anna closed her eyes. Her voice was barely a whisper. "I'm tired of pretending." He nodded, then stopped. She looked at him, surprised. No one had ever said that to her before, not without some condition, not without some judgment. Keanu continued, "You don't have to be perfect all the time. Not here. Not with me." She didn't know why those words made her cry harder than she had in weeks. They sat together on the steps of her trailer for a long time. The studio lights dimmed. The sounds of work faded. And in that quiet space between fame and real life, two people who had both carried silent pain found something. Rare understanding. Anna told him about the call she got that morning, about her father's diagnosis, about how she had tried to push through the day like nothing was wrong, about how the pressure to always smile, always shine, had finally caught up to her. Keanu listened. He didn't interrupt, didn't offer quick answers. He just listened. And when she finished, he told her something no one else had dared to share. He told her about the time he almost quit acting, about the night he sat in his car after a shoot and didn't want to go home because he didn't know who he was anymore, about the pain he carried from losing people he loved, and how, even now, some days still felt too heavy. Anna looked at him differently after that, not as the quiet, mysterious movie star everyone admired, but as a man who had bled in silence and kept going anyway. "How did you do it?" she asked. He smiled, not with his mouth, but with his eyes. "One moment at a time, one kind word at a time, and by letting people in even when it scared me." That night, Anna didn't go home alone. They sat in the quiet studio lot until it was dark. They didn't talk much more. But something had shifted. A new connection had been formed. One built not on fame, not on roles or reputation, but on honesty, unshared pain, on choosing to be real in a world that often rewards the opposite. What neither of them knew yet was that this single moment would ripple forward and change both of their lives in ways neither could expect. But for now, it was enough that she hadn't cried alone, and that someone had whispered for words that made all the difference. What she found on his tabliana didn't sleep that night. Her head lay on the pillow, but her heart kept replaying Keanu's words again and again. I'm here with you. They weren't dramatic. They weren't loud. They didn't come with music or applause. But they stayed with her longer than any line in any script ever had. The next morning, she showed up on set early, earlier than usual. The makeup team wasn't even there yet. She wore no makeup, no styled hair, just a plain hoodie and jeans. And for the first time in a long time, she didn't care how she looked. She walked to the back where the trailers were parked, hoping maybe Keanu would be there too. His trailer door was slightly open. She hesitated, then knocked softly. "Keanu," she called. His voice came from inside, quiet but kind. "Come in." She stepped inside, expecting to see the usual clutter of a working actor's trailer scripts, clothes, snacks. But what she found was different. The table near the window was filled with small things, handwritten notes, Polaroid photos, folded, pieces of paper, worn and old, a candle, and a small stack of children's drawings, crumpled but carefully kept. She stared at it. Keanu stood up from the tiny couch, pulling on his jacket. "Sorry for the mess," he said with a small smile. "I was going through some memories." Hannah pointed to the drawings. "What are those?" He paused, walked over, picked up one with shaky red scribbles and a crooked sun. "My sister's son drew this for me," he said. "He passed when he was 6. Cancer." Hannah's throat tightened. "I'm sorry." "Me too," he said. "But holding these helps me remember the love, not just the loss." They sat across from each other. Anna reached into her bag and pulled out her phone. She hesitated, then opened a photo. It was of her father, sitting in a hospital bed, smiling with weak eyes. "I didn't tell anyone," she said. "But he called me after the scene yesterday. He said he might not make it through the week." Keanu nodded slowly, listening with full attention. Anna continued, "I've spent my whole life acting like everything's okay, in interviews, in public, even with friends. But yesterday, when you whispered those words, something broke, and somehow that helped." Keanu leaned back. His eyes were full of warmth. "Breaking isn't weakness," he said. "It's proof you're still alive, still human." For a moment, silence wrapped around them again. Then Keanu stood and walked over to the small drawer by the door. He opened it and pulled out an old notebook. The cover was cracked. Inside were dozens of handwritten pages. "When things get heavy," he said, "I write letters, but I don't send them. Sometimes they're 2 people I lost. Sometimes 2. Myself, it helps me feel like I'm speaking when no one's listening." He held the notebook out. "Write one," he said, "to anyone, anything, even if you burn it later." Anna took it, hands trembling. She looked at the first blank page, and for a second, the words didn't come, but then slowly they did. "Dear Papa, I'm scared. I don't want to lose you. I don't want to pretend anymore." The words poured out, raw and unfiltered. Tears dripped onto the page, but she didn't stop. Keanu didn't look over her shoulder. He just sat nearby, offering quiet support. When she finished, she closed the notebook and looked up at him. "Thank you," she said softly, "for not trying to fix me, just sitting with me." Keanu smiled. "That's what real kindness is, showing up, staying present. Even when we don't have the answers." They didn't know it yet, but this small act, sharing pain in a quiet trailer, would go on to affect the way they worked, the way they acted, and even the way they connected with others on set. Over the next few days, something subtle shifted. Anna began to show up differently. Still grieving, still hurting, but more open, honestly, cried more freely. Even during breaks, she no longer wore the mask of perfection. And Keanu, he started spending more time with the younger crew members. Not as a star, but as a gentle mentor, he gave them time. Listened to their stories, told his own. One afternoon, a camera assistant named Lucas sat down beside Keanu during lunch and said, "You seem different lately. Lighter." Keanu smiled. "Maybe because I stopped carrying everything alone." That night, Anna found a note taped to her trailer door, just for words, written in Keanu's handwriting. "Your heart is safe." And under it, a little drawing of a broken heart stitched together, Anna touched it with her fingers, then held it close. For the first time in weeks, she felt hope. She whispered to herself, "Maybe I'll be okay." And somewhere nearby, Keanu looked up at the night sky, quietly hoping she was right. The scene they couldn't fake scene was intense. Anna's character had just discovered the truth. Keanu's character, her former protector, stood before her, full of guilt. The script called for shouting, crying, and then silence. The entire crew waited as the director shouted, "Action!" Anna stood in the middle of the room set, holding the fake letter in her shaking hands. Keanu stepped in slowly, his footsteps heavy. For a few seconds, it was just the sound of her breath and the rustling of paper. "You lied to me?" she said. It was a line from the script, but the emotion in her voice, WASN. Single quotes, Todd jest as his character. But as a man who had come to understand her real pain, his eyes softened. He stepped closer. Anna's hands dropped to her sides. The letter fell. "You said you'd protect me," she continued. Keanu didn't speak. The line he was supposed to say slipped from his mind. Instead, he did something that wasn't written anywhere in the script. He walked forward, gently reached out, and placed his hand over hers. Anna looked up, her eyes filling again. Tears slid down her cheeks. Not because she was acting, but because she didn't have to act anymore. "I'm still here," Keanu whispered. That wasn't in the script either, but the director didn't yell cut. He watched, stunned, as something raw unfolded in front of him. The camera crew kept rolling, too caught in the moment to stop. Anna collapsed into Keanu's arms, her body shaking, her sobs real. Keanu held her close. Not tightly. Just enough to remind her she wasn't alone, and then slowly she whispered back, "I know." The room went silent. A few moments later, the director finally whispered, "Cut." No one moved. The room remained quiet, even the grips and light. Crew stood still, eyes wide. When Anna finally pulled back, she looked around at everyone watching, then said quietly, "Sorry. I didn't mean to break down like that." Keanu shook his head. "You didn't break down, you showed truth." The director stepped forward. "We're not reshooting that. Not ever. That was the realest moment we've captured all month." The crew clapped. Not a loud, rowdy clap, but a quiet, respectful one. Everyone understood they had just witnessed something rare. Later that day, Hannah sat alone behind the set, wiping her face with a tissue. A young costume assistant, Maria, came over with a fresh cup of tea. "I've watched you for years," Maria said, "but today you felt like someone I knew. Someone like me." Anna looked up surprised. "What do you mean?" Maria sat beside her. "I lost my mom last year. Came back to work pretending like I was okay. But watching you today, it made me feel less alone." Anna reached out and took Maria's hand. "You're not alone," she said softly. "I promise." Just then, Keanu walked by and saw them sitting together. He smiled gently and gave Anna a small nod. She nodded back. Something was happening. Slowly, quietly, but it was spreading. That night, Keanu and Anna left the set together. They walked to the edge of the parking lot where the city lights looked, far away and soft. "Can I ask you something?" Anna said. Keanu looked at her. "Anything. Why are you always so calm, so patient? Even when things fall apart?" He paused, thinking, then said, "Because I know what it feels like to fall apart. I know what it means when someone chooses to stay anyway." Anna looked up at him. "I'm glad you stayed," she said. "Me too," he replied. She leaned her head on his shoulder. Not because of romance, not because of a script, but because it felt safe. For the first time in a long time, Ina didn't feel like she had to perform. Not for the cameras, not for the crew, not for anyone in Keanu. He felt something too, not attraction, not pride, but peace. Peace in knowing that being kind, being real, being present, those small, human things could reach further than any movie ever could. As the wind blew softly around them in the sky, deep and above, neither of them spoke. They didn't have to. Some things are said best in silence. The whisper that spread the next day felt different on set. People were still doing their jobs. The lights were still bright, the cameras still rolling, and the schedule was still tight. But something invisible had shifted. People were quieter, kinder, more present. Like the air carried a secret everyone felt but didn't speak. Anna noticed it right away, when she arrived that morning. The security guard at the gate gave her a soft smile and said, "I hope your heart's doing better today." It was such a small thing, but it landed deep. The makeup artist didn't talk about trends or gossip. Instead, she placed a hand gently on Anna's shoulder and said, "You helped more people yesterday than you'll ever know." Anna looked into the mirror, her face half done, and whispered, "I didn't even try to." Keanu arrived just after her. He'd walked in quietly as usual, nodding to the crew, greeting everyone by name. He carried a small brown paper bag. When he saw Anna, he handed it to her. For later, he said, inside was a single muffin still. Warm, with a sticky note on top, "You're allowed to enjoy things, even in hard times." She blinked, smiled, and held the bag close like it was a treasure. That day's filming was tough. The scenes were emotional, deep, full of confrontation and forgiveness. But Anna and Keanu didn't have to fake anything. Their connection now ran under every line, under every pause, and everyone watching knew it. The director called for a break. Anna stepped outside to breathe. She stood by the trailers, watching a bird hop across the pavement. Just then, a young actor from another set walked over. He was barely 20, nervous, holding his hands behind his back. "Hi," he said, voice shaking. I saw what you did yesterday. The scene, the emotion, it felt real. It helped me. It helped me believe this job could still mean something." Anna looked at him kindly. "What's your name?" "Jamal." She nodded. "Jamal, I'm glad it helped. I wasn't trying to teach anything. Just didn't want to lie anymore." He swallowed hard, then took something from behind his back. A folded piece of paper. He handed it to her. "I wrote this for you. After I saw the scene. It's just words, but it's what I felt." She unfolded it. Inside was a short poem, raw and honest. "I saw you fall, and it made me feel strong. 'Cause your fall looked like mine, and now I know we can rise." Anna blinked, tears returning again. She whispered. When she walked back in, she found Keanu reading, alone in a quiet corner. She sat beside him and showed him the poem. He read it twice, then looked at her and said, "Do you know what you've done?" "What?" "You've turned your pain into a bridge." Anna didn't answer, but her heart understood exactly what he meant. Later that evening, while packing up, the director called them both into his office. "I want to show you something," he said. He pulled up a private link on his laptop. A rough cut of the scene they had shot 2 days earlier, the unscripted one they watched in silence. Anna saw herself cry. Keanu saw himself reach out. They saw the pain, the realness, the stillness. But more than that, they saw truth. No edits. No polish when it ended. The director looked up. "We've submitted this scene for the festival," he said. "I've never done that with raw footage before, but this was human." Anna and Keanu exchanged a look. Not of pride. Not of ego. Just quiet respect. The next morning, Anna sat down with her phone and began writing something different. Not a post, not a statement, but a letter to her father. Not one of fear this time, but one of gratitude. "Dear Papa," I cried on camera. "Because I was told to, but because I felt you there. Felt everything you taught me. How to care, how to keep going, how to be real, even when it hurts. I love you." And I'm not hiding that anymore. She didn't post it. She just sent it privately. And when he replied 3 hours later, all it said was, "That's my girl." That night, Anna and Keanu walked the lot together once again. "Do you ever feel like something is changing?" Anna asked. Keanu looked up at the stars. "I think when we choose honesty over performance, the world listens." She smiled. "Then let's keep being honest." Keanu chuckled softly. "Even if it gets messy." "Especially then," she said. They laughed quietly. No cameras, no script, just two souls walking side by side and somewhere behind them. On a quiet set that used to be just another job, people were whispering things to each other like, "You see her today? She made me cry, but in a good way." Keanu told the lighting guy his presence mattered. No one ever says that. The whisper was spreading, not the one from the scene, but the one that lived underneath it. "I'm here, with you." A storm behind the applause. 3 days later, the studio released a short teaser clip from the film. Just under 1 minute long, no music, no fancy cuts. Just Anna, standing with tear-filled eyes, and Keanu stepping forward to whisper those 4 quiet words, "I'm here with you." Within hours, the clip went viral. Viewers around the world shared it, saying it didn't feel like acting, it felt like truth. People commented things like, "I've never felt seen by a film scene until now. I cried because I know that feeling of breaking quietly." Whoever allowed this raw moment to stay in the movie deserves an award. Anna sat alone in her apartment that night, reading the comments with her knees tucked against her chest. Every line of support made her feel grateful, but also nervous. The tension came pressure. And pressure was what had made her break down in the first place. Her phone buzzed. A message from Keanu. "Breathe. The light is with you." Just 6 words. But she smiled. She walked over to the window, looking out at the glowing city. Us people. Movement, everything rushing. But somewhere in that rush, she had finally stopped pretending. Suddenly, a knock at the door. When she opened it, she found Maria, the young costume assistant, standing there with wide eyes. "I'm so sorry," Maria said quickly. "I shouldn't just show up like this, but I had to tell you." Anna stepped aside. "What happened?" Maria walked in holding her phone. "My cousin saw your scene. She's 15. She's been really closed off since her mom died. Today, she came into the kitchen crying and said Anna's pain looked like mine. Maybe I'm not broken." Anna's hand went to her mouth. Maria continued, voice shaking. "She wants to start writing again, she says. If you can cry on screen and still be strong, maybe she can cry at school and not be ashamed." Anna sat down slowly, feeling something open deep in her chest. "Thank you," she whispered. "Just for telling me, but for showing me that truth reaches further than we think." Maria nodded, then left quietly. But something heavy was coming, something unexpected. The next day, headlines began to shift. Some blogs started asking if Anna's breakdown was planned publicity. Others accused the studio of exploiting her real emotions. Words like fake, strategy, and emotional stunt started circling. Anna's heart sank. All she had done was be honest. And now the world was twisting it. Keanu knocked on her trailer. "You okay?" he asked softly. She nodded, but her eyes said no. "Come with me," said. They walked together to the back of the lot where no one followed. Keanu reached into his jacket and pulled out a small envelope. He handed it to her. Inside was a letter, handwritten. The paper soft and cracked. "Dear Anna, you don't owe anyone a perfect image. You gave something true, something rare. Let the world spin. Stay grounded. You were never meant to carry their judgment. You were meant to carry your light." Shay looked up at him, tears forming again. "I didn't think it would hurt this much." Being seen, then questioned. Keanu nodded. "They see the surface, but we carry the roots." Anna folded the letter and placed it in her pocket. "Thank you for reminding me who I am." That evening, after filming wrapped, the director called for an OWL crew meeting. Everyone gathered in the main soundstage. The director stood in the center and held up his phone. "This film," he said, "was supposed to be about loss and healing. But somewhere along the way, it became more than that. It became about real courage, and that started with you, Anna." Soft wave of claps began, he continued, and Keanu. "Your quiet strength created space for something real to grow." Claps grew louder. Anna looked around the room. She saw the faces of people who had once only nodded at her in passing. Now, they looked at her like family, after the meeting as people filtered out. Anna stayed behind. Keanu walked over, his eyes gentle. "Do you believe it now?" he asked. "Believe what?" "That your pain was never weakness." Anna breathed in. "Deeply, I'm starting to." They stood in silence for a moment, then Keanu added, "The world can misunderstand you, but it can't undo the healing you've sparked." That night, Anna sat in her car for a long time before going home. She didn't cry, she didn't break. She just breathed, and for the first time, felt like enough. As she pulled away from the studio lot, she looked in the mirror and whispered to herself, "I'm still here. I'm still real." The moment the world stood still, 2 weeks passed. The studio was buzzing more than ever. The final edits were done. The premiere date was locked, and the scene, the one everyone now called the whisper, had become the heartbeat of the entire film. But Anna was quiet, not sad, not hiding, just still. She had stopped checking the internet every hour. Stopped reading every comment. She even stopped rehearsing her interviews in front of the mirror. Instead, she started doing something she hadn't done in years. She wrote every morning before work. She wrote one honest page in a notebook. No filter, no pressure, just truth. Sometimes it was a memory, sometimes a question, sometimes just words that didn't make sense until they did. Keanu kept showing up too, with warm muffins, new books, and always those quiet reminders. Not big speeches, just little moments that felt safe, felt real. The night of the premiere arrived. Anna stood in front of the mirror in her dressing room. The gown was beautiful, her makeup perfect, but her hands trembled. She stared at herself. "You're not here to impress," she whispered. There was a knock at the door. Keanu stepped in. He looked at her, then smiled. "Ready to be seen?" he asked. Anna looked back in the mirror. For the first time in a long time, she said, "Yes." They walked the red carpet together. Cameras flashed. Questions flew. People yelled their names. But they moved slowly, calmly, like nothing could shake them. The interviewer asked Anna, "That moment when you broke down mid-scene, did you ever imagine the world would react this way?" Looked at the crowd, then looked at Keanu. "I didn't imagine anything," she said softly. "Stop pretending." The crowd fell quiet, Keanu added. "Sometimes truth is louder than acting." Inside the theater, as the lights dimmed and the film began, people leaned in, and when the whisper scene arrived, when Anna's voice cracked and Keanu stepped forward to say, those 4 simple words, "No," one blinked. You could hear people crying softly in the audience. When the credits rolled, there was silence. Not the awkward kind, the kind that happens when people feel something they haven't let themselves feel in years, and then applause. Long, deep, not just for the movie, but for the truth, after the screening. Dozens of people came up to Anna. An older man with shaky hands said, "You reminded me of my daughter. I haven't called her in 6 years, but I will tonight." A teenage girl whispered, "I thought I was broken. But now, maybe I'm just healing." A crew member, tears in his eyes, said, "You saved my life, not with a speech, just with your silence." Anna held each word gently. Like gifts outside, under the stars, Anna and Keanu stood together again. "You know," she said, "I used to think acting was about being someone else. Now I think it's about becoming more of who we are." Keanu nodded. "The world doesn't need more perfect performances. It needs more real moments." They stood quietly. Then Anna pulled out a folded note from her clutch. "My father passed 2 nights ago," she said softly. "He told my mom to give me this." She unfolded it. Inside, in his shaky handwriting, it said, "You made me proud the day you stopped pretending." Anna pressed the note to her chest, tears finally falling. Keanu took her hand. Didn't speak. Didn't try to fix it. Just stayed. In that final moment, Anna understood something deep. The pain, the pressure. The moment she broke, it all led her here. To truth, to healing, to connection. She turned to Keanu and whispered for words of her own. "Thank you for staying human," and he smiled. Because in a world built on lights and illusions, 2 people had chosen something braver. They chose to be real. They chose to be kind, and they chose to walk through the storm not with answers, but with each other.